صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين منتجبين المنتخبين المظلومين الغرر الميامين سيما بقية الله في الأرضين وحجته الخلائق أجمعين سيدنا وإمام زماننا وصاحب نعمتنا وولي الأمرنا مهدي هذا الأمة وطؤوس أهل الجنة الحجة ابن الحسن العسكري فداه وأرواح العالمين صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Continuing on in our series of our lectures, just before I begin, the advice that the brother gave was that the purpose of these English lectures is for the youth. So if the youth are upstairs in the workshop waiting, the workshop is not happening right now. So it's advised if the youth come downstairs, sit here, listen to the English lecture, and then when I finish, you can follow me upstairs, and then we can continue the workshop from there. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraj.
So we're talking about the history of Karbala. We're talking about why Imam Hussein did what he did. And gradually as these nights progress forward, it will make more sense. So yesterday we left it at the part of the death of the Prophet. And we spoke about that even though the Prophet had not physically left this world yet, people were already disrespecting him. People were already disobeying him. But just before we continue from there, I'd like to talk a little bit about Amir al-Mu'mineen during the life of the Prophet. Reason why I want to start with this is because then later on when we discuss Amir al-Mu'mineen after the death of the Prophet, it'll make more sense. So we see that Amir al-Mu'mineen was the first person that stood up and accepted the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
But the point that we're going to establish is what was the relationship that the Prophet had with Amir al-Mu'mineen. And then we'll see how that relationship changed after the death of the Holy Prophet. So from the very onset we see that Amir al-Mu'mineen was raised in the same household as Rasulullah. They grew up together. In fact, there's a narration that they say that Imam Ali used to follow the Prophet around like a baby camel follows its mother. That's the connotation that's given. So he used to follow the Prophet around. His akhlaq, everything that he was taught was from Rasulullah himself. Then the Prophet migrates to the city of Medina. And we discussed on the first night that he designated Amir al-Mu'mineen to sleep in his bed. Then he arrives in Medina. Now let's start from here. As soon as the Prophet arrives, now there's two groups of people. There's the Muhajirin and then there are the Ansar. Those that came from Makkah and those that resided already within Medina. Now within the culture at the time, before the Prophet made his practices, racism was something that was practiced at a high degree. So that's the first thing that the Prophet wanted to eradicate. He wanted to show that despite which tribe you're from, despite which country you're from, despite which family members you are belonging to, you're all one in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first task that the Prophet did was he created bonds of brotherhood. So he took one Muhajir and one Ansar and he said, you two are now brothers. What's the purpose of this? That if your brother is in need of anything, it is your responsibility to help him. So one by one, the Muhajir and the Ansar were being paid off by one another, until all the companions had a brother and Amir al-Mu'mineen was on his own. So the Imam comes to the Prophet and he says, Ya Rasulullah, everybody has a brother. Do I, Ali, not get a brother? That's when the Prophet smiles and says, Ya Ali, anta akhi fi dunya wal akhirah. Ya Ali, you are my brother in this world and in the hereafter. Allah sees nobody worthy of creating a bond of brotherhood with you except me. So he made the distinction from day one. As he's establishing his government in the city of Medina, the first battle of Islam took place. Now this battle was known as the Battle of Badr. The way the battle took place, as we mentioned, Abu Sufyan was a person that banished the Prophet from his homeland. The enmity that he had towards the Prophet was there. Now the way the Battle of Badr took place was 313 members of the Prophet's followers were ready against 950 members of Quraysh. Now when this battle was about to take place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed a few verses in the Quran within Surah Baqarah, which is chapter 2 of the glorious Quran. And he speaks about this battle. Now as this battle was about to take place, the Quraysh had come at the forefront, and now the Prophet is there. Obviously they are there more in number. But the Prophet said to them, firstly, the belief that you have in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's supposed to surpass your victory. Believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, leave it to Him and then see what He does. When this battle was taking place, the first thing that they did was 3 of the strong warriors from the opposition came forward. And they looked towards the camp of the Prophet and they said, bring 3 of your strongest warriors. So the Prophet sent Amir al-Mu'mineen, he sent his uncle Hamza, and he sent 1 other person from the family of Bani Hashim. They engaged in one-on-one battle. Amir al-Mu'mineen defeated his opponent. Hazrat Hamza defeated his opponent. And the 3rd member, although he defeated his opponent, he was injured. The battle took place, the Muslims were victorious. Now when the Quraysh went back to the city of Makkah and found out that they had just lost to the Muslims, the hatred is now growing. So now that instigated the second battle. The second battle is known as the Battle of Badr. The second battle is known as the Battle of Uhud. In this battle, Amir al-Mu'mineen made a distinction. That's the distinction that we're trying to get to. So now that the Quraysh have gone back and they've spoken about what happened and they've spoken about the fact that we went to war and we lost, they came this time with 3,000 people. Came to the Prophet was told that the battle is about to take place. In this battle, the Prophet did a few things. The first thing he did was he placed 50 people on the Mount of Uhud, on the mountain of Uhud. And he says, no matter what happens, whether we win or whether we lose, you 50 are to stay on this mountain. Now as the battle is taking place, the first flag bearer, now we talk about Muharram and we talk about an alam. The alam is something that signifies Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas in the Battle of Karbala. But even before the Battle of Karbala, even in today's time, even back in the wars that have taken place throughout history, you'll notice each army has a flag, and each army has a flag bearer. So the flag bearer is the person that represents the army, and he is the toughest person within that army. If the flag falls, just understand that the army is gone. If the flag is still standing, that means the army is still present and still willing to fight. So the flag bearer from the opposition came forward. And he called the Prophet and he said to the Prophet, which one amongst you is ready to fight me? He was a well-known warrior amongst the Arabs. Rasulullah turned towards Amir al-Mu'mineen and he sent him towards the battlefield. The narration state 1 strike. So all it took Amir al-Mu'mineen. 1 strike and he was defeated. And just like that, numerous flag bearers came forward and numerous flag bearers were sent to hell by the sword of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now, when all the flag bearers are gone, this gave the Muslims an opportunity to attack. So the army of the Muslims then proceeded forward towards the battle. As this battle was going on, the Muslims are now gaining victory. The 50 people that the Prophet placed on top of the mountain, they have now forgot what the Prophet has told them. The Prophet said, whether we win or whether we lose, you stay there, don't move. But they saw victory and they saw the spoils of war being collected, so they left the mountain and they came down. This gave the opposition a chance to attack from behind. The purpose of these 50 on there was so that nobody attacks you from behind. Because remember, if you're at a higher position, on a higher ground, when somebody's coming to attack you, they fear you because of your height. From these 50, they say that narrations state 39 of them abandoned their post and came down to collect the spoils of war. This then gave the opposition a chance to go around the mountain and attack the Muslims from behind. When they did this, the turmoil began. The narrations state that the Prophet was struck on his mouth and he fell unconscious. A statement was given that Rasulullah has died. As soon as this statement began to spread amongst the companions, they began to flee from the battlefield. Now we look at a book within the books of the Ahlul Sunnah, Sahih al-Bukhari. It talks about this incident and it says that all the companions abandoned their post because they thought the Prophet was dead and that Islam is dead. None other, no history book has recollected any other individual that stayed with the Prophet other than Amir al-Mu'mineen, the commander of the faithful, Ali ibn Abi Talib. He stayed there on his own and he defended the Prophet from the enemy. Various groups were trying to attack the Prophet. Amir al-Mu'mineen defended them. And it was at this moment that Jibreel descended down to the battle of Uhud. And because of the bravery that Amir al-Mu'mineen gave, a voice came from the heavens, La fatta illa Ali. There is no brave youth like Ali. Wala sayfa illa dhul fiqar. And there is no sword like the sword of Dhul Fiqar, which was the sword that Amir al-Mu'mineen used. At Dawat al-Dhul Ashira, when Amir al-Mu'mineen stood up and said to the Prophet, I accept you as the Prophet, he was also saying that if anybody comes to harm you, Ya Rasulullah, I am there for you, I'm here. And he proved this time and time again. After the battle of Uhud, there's a battle known as the Battle of Khandaq. The way the Battle of Khandaq began was, after the defeat in the Battle of Uhud, Abu Sufyan went back and gathered all the tribes of Quraysh. And he told them that there's this person called Mohammed, and he's spreading this religion where he's saying that our idols are false gods. We need to attack him. So it didn't take a lot of convincing. More and more tribes got together and they were about to attack the Prophet in the city of Medina. This is now the third battle of Islam. Before the armies got there, an informer came to the Prophet and made him aware that Abu Sufyan now is coming with 3 times more the people. He's united all the tribes and they're coming to partake in a war against you, Ya Rasulullah. Salman al-Farisi, who was a companion of the Prophet, who was at a stage or at a position within the eyes of the Ahlul Bayt, that Rasulullah said, Salman is from within our Ahlul Bayt. Salman gave the Prophet a suggestion. He said, Ya Rasulullah, in Persia, we have this defense technique. The technique is, if you have a large number of people coming to attack you, and you don't have a big number of people to defend, what you do is you dig a trench so deep and so wide that the numbers don't count for anything. So it took them 6 days to dig that trench. When the trench was dug, the army arrived. The army is now seeing the trench so far and so deep, the numbers counted for nothing. Amr ibn Abdul al-Amri was a person amongst the Arabs who was known to match 1,000 men. Now imagine how strong he is. The one person was at the same level of 1,000 men. That's what he was known for. So people were always scared of him anyway. He was at the Battle of Khandaq. He managed to jump over the trench, came towards the Prophet, and with the utmost disrespect said, Ya Muhammad, do you have anybody that can fight me? Now at this moment the Prophet turned towards his companions and he said, is there anybody that can silence this person? Only one person stood up. Ali ibn Abi Talib. He stood up and he said to the Prophet that I will defend you, Ya Rasulullah. The Prophet says, Ya Ali, sit down. He asks again, is there anybody that can help me defeat this person? They all remain quiet. Amir al-Mu'mineen stands up again. Ya Rasulullah, I will do it. The Prophet says, Ya Ali, sit down. On the third occasion when the Prophet said, is there anybody that can silence this person? Amir al-Mu'mineen stands up again. And this time the Prophet allows him to come forward. Our scholars have said that the reason why the Prophet did it like this and didn't just accept it on the first was so that it gave everybody an opportunity to show their courage. For example, if the Prophet said, is there anybody to fight? Amir al-Mu'mineen stands up, the Prophet says, Ya Ali, go fight. Others might say, we were never given the chance. Ali stood up and he went, I was ready. I just wasn't given the opportunity. So they say the Prophet did it on 3 separate occasions to show the people that there was nobody willing Nobody courageous enough other than Ali ibn Abi Talib. So the Imam then stood up, went towards the battlefield, introduced himself. Now Abu Talib was the father of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amr ibn Abdul al-Amri was the friend of Abu Talib. So he knew Abu Talib. So when Amir al-Mu'mineen came forward, he saw a young boy by the ages of, differing within narrations, 19 to 20 years old. He looks at him and he goes, "Who are you?" He says, "I am Ali ibn Abi Talib." He says, "Ali ibn Abi Talib? I knew your father Abu Talib. Go away, I don't want to kill you, go away." The Imam looks at him and says, "If you've come to attack the religion of Allah and you've come as a threat to Rasulullah, then I do want to kill you. So come off your horse and talk to me." So Amr ibn Abdul comes down. He's looking at Amir al-Mu'mineen. At this moment, the Prophet says something. He gathers his companions. He says, "Barad al-imanu kullu ila al-kufri kulli." Faith in its entirety is going against kufr in its entirety. What was he trying to say? He was saying that had it not been for Amir al-Mu'mineen on that day stepping forward, there would have been no Islam to reach you and I today. Because had Amr ibn Abdul al-Amri defeated the Muslims on that day, how would Islam have progressed towards us today? So it was barad al-imanu kullu, faith in its entirety was fighting disbelief in its entirety. So Amir al-Mu'mineen went to fight. They partook in a battle. Amir al-Mu'mineen defeated him, threw him onto the ground, and as the Imam was about to strike with his sword to kill him, Amr ibn Abdul spat in the face of Amir al-Mu'mineen as an act of disrespect. As soon as he spat, Amir al-Mu'mineen got off his chest and began to walk away. A few moments later, he came back. And then a conversation took place. Amr says to him, "Oh Ali, why did you walk away?" The Imam says, "Because you spat in my face." He says, "The only reason I spat in your face was because I'm embarrassed the fact that you have taken me down. I'm a warrior. I'm known to fight 1,000 people. And I spat in your face because I want you to kill me quickly." The Imam said, "Nahnu Ahlul Bayt." We are Ahlul Bayt. If we fight, it is fi sabilillah, for the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am fighting you not because I hate you. I am fighting you because you are the enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You spat in my face, so you angered me. Had I killed you in that state, I would have killed you because of my anger, not because of the fact that you are the enemy of Allah. So I calmed down. I went for a walk. I brought my nerves down. And now that I'm back, I'll finish what I started. And then the Imam struck and finished Amr ibn Abdul al-Amri. When he finished him, the Prophet said, the strike of Ali on the day of Khandaq, أفضل من عبادة الثقلين. The strike of Ali on the day of Khandaq is greater than all the deeds that the humans and the jinns attain in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now some people say that's a big statement. We say no, it's not. Again, same point. Had Ali not done that strike alayhi salam on that day, there would not have been any humans and jinns to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was Amir al-Mu'mineen in the battles. Now you can see that the Muslims should be grateful. The Muslims should be saying, had it not been for Ali, we would have been killed. So evidently in your mind you're thinking, yes, Amir al-Mu'mineen saved us from the battles. But throughout history, if you notice that whenever somebody's brave, strong, and a ferocious warrior, they're not kind, they're not compassionate, they have no mercy. Because that constant fighting and killing, it has a psychological effect on them. And when it comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen, on the battlefield there was no warrior greater than him. Off the battlefield there was no man more merciful than him. Amir al-Mu'mineen was the type of person that when he was the governor of Kufa, he would walk in the streets of Kufa with food in a sack on his back, cover his face, and go to the orphans in the streets and give them the food, give them milk, clothe them if they needed clothes. But he won't show them his face. Why? The reason why was because he was the Khalifa of the time. That's the first point. The second point is, he didn't want people knowing that it was him that was doing it. When you give charity, you do it for Allah. That's the first point. When we give charity and then we show off that charity, it negates the purpose of that charity. So he'd cover his face so no one knew it was him. In fact, they say that after Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck on the 19th of Ramadan, and for 3 days he lay in his house, It was that moment that the children found out that the man who used to give us food was none other than Ali. Because they didn't know who he was, but when he didn't come for 3 days, and they noticed that Amir al-Mu'mineen was struck, they put 2 and 2 together. And his yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was so strong. In a battlefield, there's a narration in the Battle of Siffin, Amir al-Mu'mineen is fighting someone, he overpowers him. He takes his sword. The person is now defenseless. He looks at Imam and he says, "Oh Ali, I hear that you never say no when someone asks you for something." The Imam says, "That's correct. Ask me." He says, "Give me my sword back." The Imam says, "Here you go." The person looks at Imam Ali and says, "Do you know what? I want to follow your religion." The Imam said, "Why?" He says, "I want to follow the religion of a man that has that much yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that in the heat of battle you take your enemy's defense, and when he asks for it, without any hesitation you give it back to him, because you know Allah is on your side." This was Amir al-Mu'mineen. And we can go on for years and years and talk about Imam Ali. There's volumes and volumes and encyclopedias written about him. But the point that I'm trying to make was throughout the life of the Prophet, there was a distinction. He proved himself in battle. He proved himself in governorship. He proved himself as a leader. He proved himself on various occasions. Now the Prophet is nearing his deathbed. Now we know that an event took place known as Ghadir. We know that the Prophet stopped everybody. We know he raised Amir al-Mu'mineen's hand. And we know he said, "Allahu mawlahi wa ana mawla al-mu'mineen. Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla. Allahumma wali man wala Ali wa adi man ada Ali." We know he said all this. But just for argument's sake, even if he didn't, was there a question of doubt as to who succeeds the Prophet? Was there anybody there that helped the Prophet more and spread the message of Islam more than Ali ibn Abi Talib? Yet we notice that for 27 years after the death of the Prophet, Imam Ali was confined to his house. The main fundamental difference that occurs between the followers of the madhab of the Ahlul Bayt and others is the successorship after the Prophet. And this takes a lot of explaining, so I'm not just going to brush over it. We'll continue this specific talk on a different day. The main fundamental difference is the successorship of the Prophet. And we'll talk about the successorship and we'll talk about exactly what happened. But today we just want to get past history. So for 27 years, he remained in his house. Even though he remained in his house in those 27 years, he was still the leader of the Muslims. How? Mention 2 or 3 quick stories. The Khalifa is sitting on the throne of Rasulullah. A woman comes and says, "I have a problem." He says, "What's the problem?" She says, "I have a baby, this is my baby. But this woman also claims this baby is hers. Can you now govern us as the Khalifa of the Muslims? What do we do in this situation?" He says, "I don't know, where's Ali?" It was normal for them. Whenever they used to get stuck on something, they would ask for Ali. They would always go to him in times of need. So Amir al-Mu'mineen was brought inside the mosque. Imam comes, he says, "What's the problem?" He says, "Ya Ali, this is a baby, these are 2 women. They're both claiming that they are the mother. We don't know how to tell which one is telling the truth." The Imam says, "Bring me my sword." "Ya Ali, bring me my sword." They give Imam Ali his sword. The Imam says, "Put the baby in front of me." They place the baby down. The Imam raises his sword. He says, "I'm going to cut this baby in half. One woman can take half and the other woman can take the other half." As he raises his sword, one of the women say, "No, I was lying. It's not my baby, it's hers. Just give it to her." The Imam replies back by saying, "No, you're not lying. You're telling the truth. Because a mother would rather see its baby alive in someone else's hands than see her baby die." And Amir al-Mu'mineen would then say, "Give it to her." Whenever they were stuck in terms of people leaving a will, whenever they were stuck in Islamic jurisprudence, whenever they were stuck in anything that pertained to the religion of Islam, they would go to the door of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Once Imam Ali was asked, "Ya Ali, whenever we ask you a question, you don't think, you just give the answer straight away. Why?" The Imam says, "How many fingers do you have on your hand?" He said, "I have 5. The Imam says, "You didn't think? You just told me 5 straight away. How?" He says, Ya Ali, I know these are 5 because these 5 are in front of me all the time. Imam says, exactly. We are the Imam of the Kainat. We're here to answer your questions. No one in history has sat on the mimbar of Rasulullah and said, Saluni, Saluni, ask me, before you lose me. For I know more about the paths of the heavens than I know about the paths of this earth. No one has ever said that. So for 27 years, Amir al-Mu'mineen stayed quiet. And then finally, after 27 years, when the 3rd Caliph of Muslims was killed, they came to the door of Ali. Ya Ali, we want you to be the Khalifa of the Muslims. At first, the Imam said to them, no. Let me just carry on doing what I'm doing. Just carry on. They said, no, Ya Ali, we want you to be the Khalifa. The Imam says, if I am going to be the Khalifa, then I have a few things I want to get off my chest. And the first thing is, we rule according to the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the law of Rasulullah. Anything that you're used to up till now, if it does not coincide with the law of Allah and the Prophet, we change it. They accepted Amir al-Mu'mineen and ascended the pulpit. How long did Imam rule for? 3 years before he was killed. 3 years is the only time that Imam actually had on the physical seat of power as the governor of the Muslims. 3 years. And in those 3 years, he had to partake in 3 battles as well. 3 civil wars. Soon as he comes on the seat of power, did they leave him to rule according to the way he wanted to? No, the first thing they did was they said, Ya Ali, you are the person that was responsible for the death of the 3rd Caliph. Therefore, we're going to avenge his blood. And the battle took place known as the Battle of Jamal. In that battle, Amir al-Mu'mineen defeated the opposition. As soon as the Battle of Jamal finished, Muawiyah stood up and said, Uthman is my cousin. So if anybody has a right to avenge his blood, it should be me. Ya Ali, we're coming to war for the blood of Uthman against you. And that is how the Battle of Siffin took place. Within the Battle of Siffin, when Amir al-Mu'mineen was gaining victory, the Khariji were a group of people that did not like Amir al-Mu'mineen, nor did they like Muawiyah. They wanted them both gone. So in the Battle of Siffin, they abandoned Amir al-Mu'mineen and left him. When this battle finished, Siffin, the 3rd battle in the civil war, in his 3 years as a governor, was known as the Battle of Nahrawan. And this is when the Khawarij then went to war. So the point of all this is saying that even though Amir al-Mu'mineen was sitting on the seat of power, they didn't let him legislate, they didn't let him govern, they didn't let him rule. And when Amir al-Mu'mineen was killed, that then gave the opposition. Now remember, on the first day, we talked about enmity between Bani Hashim and Bani Umayyah. That's the first thing we said. And we're coming down on the timeline. So within Bani Umayyah, there's Abu Sufyan. Within Bani Hashim, there's Rasulullah. You come down a generation, the son of Abu Sufyan was Muawiyah. The cousin of the Prophet was Imam Ali. These two then had their feud. Go down one more generation, the son of Muawiyah is Yazid. And the son of Ali is Hussein. So this enmity carried on as the generations passed, until it came to a stage where after Imam Hassan was killed, Muawiyah told everybody that after my death, Yazid is the next Khalifa of the Muslims. Turmoil began. A few people disagreed, a few people agreed, until by force Yazid took the oath of allegiance from everybody. Now it comes to the stage. So why did Hussein do what he did? Because had he not done what he did, just like his father saved Islam on many occasions, Abdullah needed to do something to save Islam. So when, as Maulana was saying on his first night, so when the letter came, accept the oath of allegiance or give us your head, the Imam replied back by saying, we will never accept you as our ruler. For we are Bani Hashim and we are the rightful heirs to govern this world. So that's when the Imam was then leaving the city of Medina to go towards the city of Kufa. 3rd of Muharram is the date that the Imam arrived in Karbala. How did he arrive? Yazid sent Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi, one of the commanders of his army, to go and intercept Abu Abdullah al-Husayn's caravan from Kufa and turn him towards Karbala. So Hur arrived and said to Hussein alayhi salam, stop, by the order of the Khalif Yazid. You are not allowed to go to Kufa. So the Imam says, where does he want us to go? He wants you to turn towards Karbala. The Imam says, okay. But before we go, you look tired, Hur. Have you had anything to eat? Have you had anything to drink? You look thirsty. Bil Fadl Abbas, give our water to Hur and his followers. Begs the question. Look at the compassion and the mercy of Hussein. That these people have come to stop you from going to Kufa. They've ordered you to go to Karbala, where you know there's going to be a war, yet the first thing on Abu Abdullah's mind, Ya Abbas, give them our water. As soon as they drink water, he then says, oh Abbas, their horses look thirsty as well. Give their horses the water that we have left. And Abu Abdullah gives them water. Hur then takes them to Karbala, and on the 3rd of Muharram, they are now camped in Karbala. Today's Masayib, inshallah, I'd like to talk about Hur. Because you know, when, like I mentioned, Muharram is a platform for us to start again, forget our mistakes, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a new chance, the beginning of a new year. No one can show you how Allah can forgive like Hur. So Hur now, on the 9th of Muharram, was told that tomorrow we're going to war. So Hur says, I wasn't aware of this. I was just told to keep Hussein in Karbala. No, Umar Sa'ad says to him, no, we're going to war tomorrow morning. Now Hur feels responsible. Hur is thinking, it's my fault. I am the reason Hussein is in Karbala. I am the reason he is going to get massacred. Yet there's a narration, never ever say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy cannot forgive you for your actions and deeds. Doesn't matter what you've done, you can always turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Hur is now saying to his son, take me towards Abu Abdullah's camp. So his son blindfolds him. He puts his head down and he goes towards the camp of Hussein. As he arrives at the camp, Abu Fadl Abbas sees a horse coming, so he takes out his sword as the defender of Hussein. Imam Hussein says, Abbas, put your sword back. This is not that same Hur. This is a different Hur. As Hur comes, the Imam looks at him and says, Hur, raise your head. They say Imam means two things by that. One, his head was down because he was embarrassed. But two, raise your head because now you have opened the doors of heaven for yourself. Come on, Hur. As Hur comes, he apologizes to the Imam. The Imam says to him, oh Hur, don't worry about what you've done. I forgive you for what you've done. But the fact that you've realized in your lifetime the mistake that you made and you've come for forgiveness, I forgive you for everything you've done. And tomorrow you will be the first one to go to battle. On the day of Ashura, Hur got ready and left. When he went towards the battlefield, Hur partook in a war. But due to his old age, he was overpowered and Hur fell off his horse. As he fell, he turned and sent his last salams to Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. The Imam rushed towards Hur, crying. As he arrived at Hur's body, he picked Hur's head up and put it on his lap. Hur took his head off and put it on the floor. The Imam picked Hur's head up and put it on his lap again. He took his head out and put it on the floor. The Imam says, Hur, what are you doing? He says, oh Abu Abdullah, you're here now to comfort me by putting my head on your lap. But just in a few moments, oh Hussein, will there be anybody to comfort you? Will there be anybody to put your head on their lap? Will there be anybody to show you solace and show you compassion when you die? The Imam then kisses the forehead of Hur and says to him, oh Hur, you have opened the doors of heaven. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Wa saya'lamu alladhina dhalamu ayya munqalibin qalibun. Salawat.